Welcome to the Ascend Growth AI podcast, where we mix smart growth moves with a little AI magic. I'm Teresa. Let's dive in. For today's guest, we have Mary Ann O'Connell, president of FranWise. With decades of experience in franchising, she specializes in helping brands scale with operational excellence and sustainable growth. She has been a franchisee, a franchisor executive, and a supplier, so she knows all aspects of franchising and is considered an expert. Mary Ann, thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Let's start by having you share a little bit about your background and the work that FranWise is doing.
Okay. Well, I've been in franchising since I think dinosaurs roamed the earth. I honestly got into franchising late 1979, 1980. I was a multi-unit franchise owner for a company named Mailer, Direct Mail Advertising. My partner at the time and I were the first franchisees. And then eventually we bought a second franchise. I couldn't spell franchise when I started. I didn't know anything about it. I was in commercial real estate. The market was bad in Los Angeles. And I decided, okay, I'll try this one. I fell in love with it. It was such a remarkable experience, especially we were all kind of young and stupid back then, and we were making it up, and being part of that was exciting. I then had the opportunity to work inside that franchisor as their vice president for franchise operations. And I learned a lot from what I understood we should do and what I understood we really shouldn't do as franchisors. Then I went on to work as an executive in a couple of different companies. The last one was Great Clips, no appointment hair care, where I was in charge of the Western division. That included oversight for franchise development, real estate, support, training, the whole 9 yards. I found a remarkably good company that had such a strong moral center, and they based all their decisions on what was good for the franchisees through royalty. So when I joined, we were just a little shy of 1,000 units, and now they have over 4,000. Yeah. So they must be doing something right. But after a few years, I realized something that I probably knew all my life. I'm a terrible employee. I'm much better when I'm on my own or I'm in charge. So, in fact, I even have a letter of recommendation from one of the executives at Money Mailer that says, hire her as a consultant. She's great. Do not hire her as an employee. So I started this company. It was O'Connell and Company. And we really started with the intent to help brands that wanted to first make that crossover from independent businesses to franchises, help them think it through, make good systems. And to me, the easy part was, well, it's all in my head. I'll write it down and create a manual. And all of a sudden, the other consultants were hiring me to write manuals, and the lawyers were sending people. So we still do the consulting, but I would say we are best known for crafting manuals and training.
Okay. Wow, what a journey. That's amazing.
It's been fun.
Yeah, and I was about to ask, so did you like being on the franchisee side or the franchisor side?
I liked it all. I don't think that myself or my team would be as good at what we do now had I not had both sides. One of my writing staff was a franchisee and then became a franchise executive. We bring that to everything we write, to everything we look at. When an existing brand comes to us and says, can you update our manuals? Now we look at them with a different eye, because we're saying, what made you think you wanted to do this in the first place? And is this really, in the long run, the best way to accomplish your goal and keep your franchisees moving in the right direction? I liked all of it. I definitely like this the best, because on a given day, I'm probably touching, just for me alone, 5 different brands and different verticals. The code switching in my head keeps me going all the time, because I'm going from food to senior care to pet care to something nobody's ever heard of yet, and I'm just getting a call about it from people across the globe. So I'm also having to look at, well, culturally, what are they doing versus what we would want done here? This, I think, is the biggest challenge and the most fun.
Who's your ideal client?
I get asked that a lot. Let's start with somebody who takes the time, and this is going to be a different answer than most people would give. It's not based on the size or where they are, because we work from brand new groups. We have one we're working with now on the other side of the globe, hasn't even opened a test unit yet, but they know what they want to do. I want people who are dedicated to the franchising model and understand it has advantages and limitations, and they want to work within those. When I see franchisors that want to cut corners or push the envelope a little too far. If I turn around and say, you're putting the system in jeopardy, they may say, oh, they've been owned by private equity. They'll say something like, oh, we have the money. The point is, if you got embroiled in something big and it made a major fracture in the system, every franchisee would have a negative impact. And franchisees give up their jobs very often. They are either, it's hard to borrow on your home equity these days, but they're liquidating parts of their, or rolling over their 401ks or their kids' college funds or something else that was put aside. We need to respect that as franchisors and move everybody forward so that, and I guess I get this from Great Clips days, you are totally dependent on your franchisees doing well enough to spin off enough royalty to worthwhile for them and you, then you have a good model. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to try and cut corners and rely on tricks and shortcuts, I don't want to do business with you.
Okay. And so it sounds like it's more a mindset and alignment on the values, but just basic, if a business is not in a franchise yet, you wouldn't work with them, right?
If they're looking to make the change, I would evaluate what they currently have and then start to look at it. If you look out on that unit level, what are they spinning off in gross sales? And then what are the margins without the franchise part involved? Then you figure out fees and royalties. Does it still make sense for the franchisee? Because sometimes the margins on these businesses are pretty thin, and the would-be franchisors aren't adding that in to the equation, and there would be no way somebody would want to give up their business for that little bit amount of money.
And I'm a very new franchisee. So when you say manuals, what do you mean? Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, they're different for everybody. And first of all, for the listeners or the watchers on this, the manual isn't the old days when it had 2 covers and pages in between.
Right.
They're almost all electronic. Think of franchising like a funnel. Mm-hmm. The top of it is the brand and the culture, because that is what's really driving most franchise purchases these days. My generation and the people right behind me were just bottom line. Newer people are going, wait a minute, I have a social conscience or I have an environmental conscience, and I want to see what your values align with mine. And do your processes actually support what you say your values are and your mission is? So you've got that. Then you have the FDD. That is a very broad statement. The potential buyer, who are they going to do business and what are they expected to do? Mm-hmm. I look at it as kind of your online dating profile. Hi, this is who we are. This is our background. We've never been bankrupt. We haven't been sued. This is what it'll cost to take you on a first date. And then I'm high maintenance, so here are all the other fees. And by the way, if you're going to date me, here are all the other rules and regulations. But it's very broad. Yes. And then you have the franchise agreement, euphemism for contract. Mm-hmm. So the contract then starts to put some meat on those bones. So let's say you had a 5% royalty. And you might start there by saying your 5% royalty is due weekly on the Tuesday the week preceding. Okay. How do I get it to you? Well, the manual fills in a lot of those blanks. Got it. Yeah, it's due by noon in my time zone, and it's going to be EFT, and here's what happens if you don't have enough money in that account. So they're putting more structure in the manuals. I look at manuals not so much telling the franchisees what to do. It's what to accomplish. And the difference is, because you're an independent business owner as a franchisee, if I'm a franchisor, I have limits on what I can tell you. That's based on keeping that independent contractor status and avoiding what's called joint employment. I can tell you how to fulfill the obligations of the franchise agreement and how we'll fulfill ours. Then I can turn around and break out what we call brand standards. So customer-facing outcomes. So let's say in your case with the bowls and the smoothies and such, I can say what the menu can be, what the recipes are, where you buy that food from. I can tell you, depending on the law, pricing. Am I going to control it? Am I going to suggest it? Am I going to give you a range? There are many options. I can control that. I can control what everyone's wearing. I can control the trade dress. I can control what the cleanliness level will look like, but I can't tell you or control how you clean it. Right. So if you look at franchising isn't a business model, it's a marketing and distribution model. I am not setting you up in FranWise of Costa Mesa business. I'm setting you up as O'Connell and Company doing business as FranWise of Costa Mesa. My company has its own DBA. I have to make sure the public and my employees know there's a split. Franchising is just wrapping paper. Think about it as the business is a box, and that little box is just stuffed in with peanuts, packing peanuts. And those are employees and how much you're going to pay them, what your benefits are going to be, what your corporate culture is going to be. That's going to be insurance above and beyond what the franchisor asks you for. Your chart of accounts below the line that the franchisee is counting. It's going to talk about how your back room is organized, how your walk-in is organized. That is, health department's going to have more to say about that than the franchisor. Mm-hmm. So I'm not telling you how to do the back of the house. I'm telling you how to create a client experience. So our manuals break all that out. And your manuals can have all of those best practices. We just go from words saying you must, you will, required, do it, to we suggest, based on our experience, we think. And that kind of helps keep everybody safe. The onus for being a good business owner and understanding the financial end of it is on the franchisee, not the franchisor. Right. Too many franchisors get stuck in that. And I'm like, no, if you bring in good franchisees, they'll know how to interpret the numbers. You can teach them that part, like here are your profit margins and here's how you make your money. The franchisor doesn't sell businesses, it sells a marketing overlay to businesses.
Well, thanks for explaining all that.
That was a very long-winded, sorry.
No, this is great. This is what I'm learning. And I guess a lot of franchisors go to you then because, I mean, everything you described is very difficult to kind of like put on paper, right? Like, is that...
In the beginning, it's difficult. When you come into my side of the business, not having been in your franchise very long, it would probably be overwhelming. Because there are lots of little pieces in franchising, words matter. It even says it in item 1 of every FDD. When we say we, us, or our, that means the franchisor, not you guys. There is no team, there is no group organization, and the brand is neither one of you. So you're both working to protect the brand. Once you get that concept, you start, I love to do puzzles in my spare time. So once I see pieces and I get to see them fit, creating a manual is actually easy for us. I don't know about for everybody else. It's taken us 24 years to really get it exact. And then they go change the laws and we'll have to rewrite it. But it's not that difficult, but it does require precision to be a good franchisor and have good documentation.
That makes sense. But I can imagine if a franchisor tries to take this on their own, there's probably some challenges there.
Yeah, they send us stuff. Oh, we have a manual. And then I'll write back and say, do a gap analysis and say, okay, you missed all the stuff that was required. We can keep these 5 things, and then all of this has to be rewritten because you can't control it.
Wow.
They always have the basics down. It's hard for a new franchisor to make that mind switch.
Right.
That they were telling their managers and their staff what to do. And a lot of times their perception is that's the only way to be successful. And if it is, then it's not franchisable.
Very interesting. And you mentioned you work globally, right? So you notice big differences between different regions?
No, but there used to be extreme differences, and I hated taking on international clients. But most of the globe has adopted U.S. standards. There are some things that are different. Canada is very closely aligned to us. The EU has a lot. There are some countries that play a little loosey-goosey, and some get, but I don't do that part. That's when attorneys come in. I am not an attorney. I just talk to them all day.
How about like just the environment in general, like with like inflation and labor challenges? How has that impacted your business in general?
That is a great question because that target is moving so fast these days and boomeranging back and forth. What my clients are telling me and other franchisors and suppliers I know that we talk all the time and try and find out what's going on. The uncertainty on the tariffs have been very hard. If you're a bigger brand, a lot of people took the time to stockpile a lot of stuff that's imported, but if it's a perishable, you can't do that. That is still uncertain because no matter what the proclamation is, it never seems to be that when we execute it. So the uncertainty is hard. It doesn't seem to be slowing down franchisees' faith in the model and buying franchises. The franchisors are trying to be more nimble. Luckily, they all got a great lesson in being nimble during COVID. So that's happening. Interest rates have been relatively stable and actually coming down a little bit. So that's not a big problem.
Mhm.
The tariffs, again, is now having a major concern on build out. A
Right.
lot of people were having components built offshore. That was in your item 7 on
Yeah.
your startup costs, and they're having to make those changes rather quickly. The other thing that is hurting people right now on a lot of the home improvement businesses and even to a degree fast food or hospitality in general is the stressors put on by the immigration moves happening right now. A lot of people are here with correct documentation, but they're afraid to leave home
Mm.
because
Mm.
it seems to be arrest first and ask questions later, not meaning to get political, but this is just how it's affecting business. And the business model for the last 10 or 20 years in hospitality and food, particularly and home improvement, have been immigrant labor. It's hard labor what they do, and it's not mentally stimulating. It's not particularly financially rewarding, and most US citizens don't want those jobs. So they've been going to a migrant workforce. I do think you'll see some businesses that maybe cut back or allow franchisees to cut back on hours because it's just going to be harder and harder to staff until we get a consistency on how all of this is being enforced.
Right.
People will have a sense of surety when they step out of their homes.
Yeah. Right now, there's no consistency at all. It changes day by day.
Not a great way to build businesses. But I have to say, I watch the franchisors, I listen to them. They have concerns, but their optimism is either inspiring or just daft. I'll go with inspiring because it keeps me going on days when it's a little crazy. But it hasn't impacted me because people are still franchising. People are still improving their franchises. And there still seems to be a pretty good lead flow for people who want to buy into systems.
How has that impacted FranWise?
AI. Is there anything that we don't say AI in these days?
Had to ask it.
It's interesting. I was listening to a news story that was interviewing somebody from Silicon Valley yesterday, saying that he doesn't believe that AI is as ubiquitous as people think it is. I mean, we've been using AI for a long time with Google and with Siri and all of that good stuff. So there has been artificial intelligence around us for a long time. There was a huge rush. Everybody wanted to work on it. I think it's been a huge boon to franchise marketing, getting your messaging down and doing the analytics to improve your messaging and to improve your list, who you're hitting. So you as franchisees can spend a whole lot less money. It's becoming much more targeted. The folks in the Fran Deb side tell me on that marketing side, it's been great. And also screening, it's been easier to build a model of who they're looking for as far as skills and finances and risk tolerance. That's become easier. I know in my business, I blew a lot of money thinking that we might be able to make the manual writing process easier with AI. We found out it's not, because as much as there is a lot of similarity across businesses, let alone across franchises, to really tap into all those unique things that make that business what it is, there was no way to combine it all.
Yeah.
But we have used it to streamline other processes. I like it. I was scared to death of it in the beginning. I can't wait. I'm taking a class on the new one that Google put out where you can have AI generated moving images, not just still pictures.
Okay.
So 8-second pieces, and then you can tag another 8-second piece on and another 8-second piece. So I think that's going to open a huge world for smaller brands that never could afford the big marketing pieces, and now they can do them themselves.
I haven't seen that one yet, so I'm looking forward to.
Brand new. I think it's also going to be very helpful, if it isn't already in place in a lot of franchises, in looking at supply chain and evaluating pricing. Franchisors can switch up that list of required or approved vendors very quickly. And for franchisees, using the right model to have much better analytics. People have had dashboards for years, but now they're really fast. They are actually in real time. That would be great. There's a company called Harmonize that's out there that is doing all of that right now, integrating all your data sources and coming up with data on the fly. It's amazing.
Sounds great. What's working really well for FranWise right now and that you're proud of?
There are a lot of similarities in our manuals because, as I said, business is business and franchise requirements are what they are. So we did use AI to help us look at it differently and create a different way to put that together. So that's right now being sent over to the Library of Congress for a complete copyright. And that's what we're really happy about. In the last couple of weeks, I've had potential clients, some of them worked for former clients, say, hi, could you review this manual on this new company we bought? And it's my manual word for word. And that's intellectual property theft. And we're having more and more of that. AI, I think, on a downside, has made people think that everything is up for grabs. For years, if I saw it on the web, I get to use it. No, it still has ownership. Claiming that and getting it cleaner and neater so that we can work more quickly for our clients, that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have a lot of competitors? Are there other companies that do what you do?
There is a guy who's also a consultant. He's been around for a long time. He's very good at what he does. Michael Fide, it's MSA and Associates. And I remember we were sitting at a table together at an IFA meeting for dinner. Someone said, wow, that's really cool. You two are competitors. And Michael said, I don't consider her a competitor. So after I kicked him under the table, I think there are some of us who do this very well. We've been at it a long time and we keep studying it. There are a lot of people who came in and maybe they worked for a brand and they helped put a manual together. It's never been reviewed by counsel. They don't know what they're doing. And I see a lot of stuff go out there that could put franchisors in jeopardy.
What's been challenging for FranWise?
Well, this elusive target of where our business community is going to end up, it's been harder to help franchisors pinpoint what to look at. I've had several say to me, do I want to wait and not go to market? And my thing is, wait for how long? We don't know how long things are going to go. Let's take our best guess at where we are on a norm and see if a model works that way. So that's been challenging. The rest of it really hasn't. I have a team that's been with me for a long time. They're great at what they do. They love what they do, and they make it pretty easy.
What metrics do you typically look at on a weekly and a monthly basis?
Because we have such a long production cycle, it's generally bi-weekly, not once a week. I am looking at lead flow. Most of our business comes from referrals by attorneys. And the other, that is at about 78% of our lead flow. Mm-hmm. Our next largest lead flow are return clients, but now they work for a different brand. They loved what we did when they were over here. Would we come over and do something at the next brand? My lead flow I watch, this is summer. I can't look at them during the summer because everybody's on vacation and it depresses me. So we watch that. My number one thing is how long are we taking? We promise certain days in return. Are we using them all? Are we cutting it shorter? And then my number one thing is I have to look at how many hours are actually going into manuals because we quote on a modified project rate. So it's saying it's going to be this amount of money. We estimate it to be 58 hours, and that includes all of this. If I start seeing that the staff is going over those hours, then I have to look at the why. And sometimes it's not anything has changed except they got a little comfortable because we're remote. We all work remotely, scattered around the country. I got one here in Southern California, Texas, Florida, and Pennsylvania. Lost my Ohio person, but that's okay. She went to establish her own great business. Nice. Sometimes when you're remote, it can become a little complacent. I'm not great at sitting on people. I don't like to manage that way, but every now and then I'll look at it, and if all of a sudden I see a hockey stick in my numbers, I got to figure out the why and either adjust what I'm bidding going out or just boost somebody back into efficiency.
What's your vision for FranWise 6 to 12 months from now?
The reason I'm holding back is I'm very close to wanting to retire. So I am talking with some people on an exit strategy for that. I don't want to fully retire because my mind would turn into tapioca. And as I said, the code switching between all these different kinds of businesses, very stimulating. And working with so many wonderful young people also keeps you younger, I believe. I don't want to be the old stick in the mud as well. In my day, we did it this way. No, what are you doing now? How can we adapt that? So that is really where I'm looking at in 6 to 12 months. I think everyone, I don't need to tell your viewers how old I am, but I'm doing the math. I wasn't 12 when I started this in 1979. So it's time, and I think it's been a great run, and I'll stick around with whoever wants to take this on to help them. As I said, it's not terribly complex, but it takes some dedication to do it right and not be sloppy.
Right. And it sounds like you have a great team too, which is also very hard to build.
I do. Two of them should have retired already, to be honest with you. I'm the one who's keeping them from the boredom of retirement.
If you were to go back in time and give your younger self advice, what would that be?
Have more money when you start a business, whether it's a franchise or this. I mean, honestly, I underestimated. And what I would say to women who are listening is understand your value. I came out of a generation where my mom couldn't have a credit card in her own name. I mean, so much has changed. And yes, I was a young person on picket lines and demonstrations and doing all that stuff. And I am very grateful for what we have to do. But women in general, we still have a tendency to charge less than our male counterparts do, to apologize more for what we do. I would go back and say to everybody, you know what, you're humble enough to know what you don't know. So stop apologizing for it and charge what you're worth.
Great advice. How about someone who wants to be president or CEO of their company one day? What advice would you give them?
Take your time, because a title is just a title. The responsibility is what's key. Like I was saying earlier about franchisors' responsibilities to franchisees, franchisor executives have a responsibility not only to their franchisees, but to their team and their investors also, to lead to good results. So you don't want to take a title for the sake of the title if you don't know how to do the job. And that kind of honesty and humility is lacking a little bit, I find, in the workplace these days. And a lot of brands would prefer to give you a big title and a raise. So now you kind of believe that, oh, I really am the Lord High Executioner of this company. I had an old boss at Money Mailer who used to say, don't believe your own press clippings. So stay humble and keep learning. And when you understand the vision, but you have some new ideas that could move it forward, earn the position and move up that way. And also, I don't know if anybody out there has read this book. It was big in the 80s, called The Peter Principle. And the Peter Principle is that we get promoted beyond our abilities and then we flame out. So if you don't have all those abilities, then that's okay. Learn to be comfortable in that role. Maybe it means to keep yourself progressing and earning more, you move from company to company, but maybe you're not CEO material, and that's okay.
Right. I've never read that book, so I will look that up.
Absolutely should read it. It's really fascinating, but you get promoted beyond your level of incompetence.
Okay. I'll look that up. Thank you for the recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you online?
The easiest way is to either go to our website, which is FranWise.net. You can reach us through that, or you can send me an email at info@FranWise.net. You can find me on the socials. I'm not really great at posting because I'm busy doing the work, but I read them. So if you reach out, I'll find it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mary Ann. I really appreciate your time today.
That's been my pleasure. Thank you. It's been a joy to talk to you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you got value, share it, tag us, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Catch you next time on the Ascend Growth AI podcast.